learn a couple of quick things about Brendan real quick before we get into our conversation. He once worked as an EMT and ski patrol. He spent a couple years working in conservation before he went back to school and went to the family company. And also, I just want to clarify for everybody, clear something up. Most people know your company as Bechtel, but that's not how you say it, right? It's
Bechtel.
Bechtel.
But it depends. As long as it's not pronounced Bechtel, I'm okay. So
okay.
In Texas, it's Bechtel.
Yeah.
Here, it's Bechtel. Doesn't matter.
So now you're all in the club. You know how to say Bechtel. Katie mentioned some of the things that Bechtel has built over the 118 years. Our topic today is building an energy future. You've built a lot of the energy past. You built a lot of the nation's nuclear infrastructure. You built the world's largest solar electric facility. You've built a lot of the LNG infrastructure that's been built in recent years. So energy is a huge part of your business. We're seeing a huge slowdown in energy spending future projects because of the drop of the price of oil, low natural gas prices. How big an impact is that going to have on Bechtel? And what are the signals you're seeing for where energy spending is going to go in the future and where you might go with it?
Yeah, I would say it's clearly, when oil goes from $100 a barrel to where it is today, that's going to have a profound impact on the way we think about opportunities as a contractor. So our oil, gas, and chemicals business, which is one of our 4 operating businesses that serves end markets, that business has really shifted. So any end user that benefits from cheap, abundant shale gas and low-price oil is doing well and wants to build projects. All the big upstream players have significantly slashed CapEx budgets and are cutting back on big projects. What this means is I think you'll see increasing segmentation of some of the traditional core markets. So Bechtel's built about 1/3 of all the natural gas liquefaction capacity on Earth, and traditionally, large onshore LNG trains. And we see the emergence, just like we hope to see in nuclear with small modular nuclear reactors, we're seeing a shift towards smaller and mid-scale liquefaction, modularized solutions that sort of democratize access. So instead of having to go and sell 5 or 6 million metric tons per annum in a big tranche, you can sell smaller bundles and package up units.
So you mentioned nuclear. You were in the Next Gen Nukes breakfast roundtable today, and I know that you are bullish on nuclear in the future. You're betting on nuclear. Yeah. Explain how you're doing that. What you see as the case for nuclear power going forward, and how it might play out, and how Bechtel will participate.
Yeah, I guess maybe to back up just a second. So I sort of joked this morning, we're a 118-year-old startup. So we think in terms of generations when we think strategically about our business. I'm the 5th generation. We've designed and built about half of the operating nuclear fleet in the United States, and in one form or another, we've touched probably, I would guess, 70 to 80% of the nuclear fleet. So deep domain expertise in nuclear, and particularly on the project execution and delivery side. We see real opportunities around small modularized reactors. We have for many years now been investing in developing a solution called Generation Empower with our partner B&W. I think as we talked about this morning, when you think about it, there's over 40 countries around the world that are looking at the first nuclear development within their country. Given COP21 and where we want to go around, decreasing the carbon footprint of energy globally, I don't see how nuclear can't be a part of the energy mix going forwards. It is, and we can debate this maybe, but today nuclear is the only proven zero carbon baseload generation technology out there. And as we heard from some of the earlier speakers, the math on how we get to a more carbon neutral future doesn't work without nuclear in our view.
Okay. You recently wrote an Earth Day blog post to the company, to your employees, and in that post you wrote, "Incorporating sustainability into the way we work is a natural evolution for Bechtel." I think, you said you're a 118-year-old startup, but most people don't think of like a traditional global construction company as being particularly sustainable. So maybe you could just explain what you mean by that evolution, how specifically you're trying to make the company more sustainable and bring your employees along with that and bring them into that effort?
Sure. So, I'm 35. We have mandatory retirement for officers at 65. So if all goes well, hopefully I've got another 30 years with the company. And when you think about a 30-year time horizon and what kind of legacy you want to build, I really hope that this amplification of sustainability is a core value for our company, which it always has been. We maybe just haven't called it that, but for 5 generations now, we've been trying to demonstrate in our actions every day that we're a responsible, long-term oriented designer and builder. So I would say particularly on projects at a mega scale. So what does that actually mean for Bechtel? It means that we need to help the industry transform the way we think about energy and moving towards a less carbon intense energy system. Our view is that natural gas needs to play a key part of that. It's a transitional fuel. It's the cleanest of the fossil fuels. It's the fastest growing of the fossil fuels. And we have to remember 41% of the world today still uses coal as their primary source of energy. So natural gas, and we see it here with combined cycle gas turbine power plants in the US displacing coal power generation, that needs to be part of the transition. We hope to see a scale up in commercial, utility scale renewables, but what we're seeing with distributed generation is really exciting. I think, I've been meeting recently with some of the, utility executives in California, and they're making big bets and making big investments in smart grids. And I think that enabling infrastructure around the grid, something we're very interested in, it's something we're trying to help with. When you think about our actual, how we execute our work, there are lots of examples about how we integrate environmental and social sustainability into the way we design and build projects. Probably my most favorite example, having grown up and lived and worked in construction camps around the world, where we show up and in many cases we're building a small city and ecosystem for 6,000 people that's self-contained in the middle of nowhere. And having those construction sites, both where we're living there and where we're working and building, be circular microeconomies where we're reusing or recycling all the materials that come in and out of that system. And when we demobilize that, we've built a positive legacy that we can pass on to the customer. That's some, those are some examples where we're,
Are you doing that now on a large scale?
We are. We have examples. We're working on a pipeline project in Georgia where we're trying to demonstrate that. We're actually measuring it and seeing how we're doing. We're not perfect yet. We're gonna keep grinding away at it until we get perfect, but which we'll probably never get to. But that notion of continuous self-improvement. One of the things we're going to launch later this year are some voluntary enterprise sustainability targets. And I think holding ourselves accountable, being public and transparent about what we're doing, we can help shape the industry around sustainability just like we did with safety.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions, so get ready. We have a microphone in the room. And meanwhile, you mentioned small circular economies around projects and stuff. I know you have smart cities as a part of your business. So, a lot of companies are trying to play in the smart cities space through technology, big data solutions and stuff. How do you come into that? How does Bechtel come into that? And how big of opportunity is that?
I think it's a massive opportunity. I think supporting sustainable, inclusive urbanization is something that all of the companies here want to be a part of. And so some examples of how we're doing that. We're building 2 of the 4 new metro lines in Riyadh. We're partnered with Siemens there. We heard from Siemens earlier. Deploying the kinds of sensors that they're talking about, and then using that data and mining the big data to come up with more efficient ways to plan and operate infrastructure to increase capacity and utilization rates and to extend the life of these assets, I think is critical. So it's an area where I think everybody wants to go do something. We were kind of joking in the nuclear discussion today. No one wants to be serial number 1.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Everyone wants to be serial number 2. A colleague said, I've already sold serial numbers 2 through 1,000. I just need someone to commit to serial number 1. So we're looking for partners in cities and in industry and in the nonprofit world that want to actually go build some of these things. So we don't do very well in the theoretical space. We actually want to go implement some of this and see how it works and then iterate until we get it right. So I think you'll see that changing. I think things like the U.S. Council of Mayors is really, pushing forward on that in a good way. So, we want to help.
I think we have a question out here. Remember to identify yourself and keep the question concise, please.
Yeah, Chandrakant Patel, I'm a chief engineer at HP. My son, in his essay to UCLA Civil Engineering, wrote that the internet has created a coffin for American innovation. His friends are distracted, didn't even take time to go and see the construction of the eastern span of the Oakland Bay Bridge, an opportunity of a lifetime. All his high school friends. Do you agree with him? Do you believe that we are not creating a cadre of physical infrastructure students in civil engineering and so on that will be needed to build the infrastructure, which has to be connected to the internet, but that we are sitting on layers of abstraction and have kind of neglected? Do you see that from a human capital perspective?
To be fair, his friends probably looked at pictures of the bridge on Snapchat.
It's a wonderful question. It's one of the things that keeps me up at night in our business and industry, where we have a generation of 35-year experience baby boomers that have designed and built mega projects around the world, technically complex, challenging execution environment projects. And then we have the millennial generation. I'm a millennial by 1 year. I just made the cutoff. And when I go recruit at Stanford, one of my alma maters, and talk to the construction management program there, I tell people, I sort of say, I acknowledge that we're competing with tech companies for civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. I think that competition's actually a healthy thing. It's going to compel our industry to innovate. I am haunted at night by the graph from the June 2015 McKinsey article about the construction industry productivity imperative, which it's a graph that shows that over the last decade or so, the manufacturing sector has doubled the productivity per worker, while in construction it's remained flat. And so competitive pressure from alternative industries will compel us to innovate and to pick up the pace and accelerate the pace of innovation. And I think that applies to how we try to attract and retain and inspire talent as well. I think for us, we're lucky in that we get to work on the world's most exciting, toughest, first of a kind, difficult projects. We gravitate towards the really hard stuff. So if you're a really hardcore engineer who likes to actually go build stuff rather than just do spreadsheets or PowerPoint slides, we're the kind of company for you. But I'll talk. I want to get your son's CV. Sounds like he's our kind of guy.
Nice recruiting.
Yeah.
Are you, just quickly, do you find that there's plenty of talent out there for you to recruit, or are you having to work hard to find it?
I think the answer is both. Mm-hmm. I think that with the oil and gas capital investment markets contracting, I think there's going to be some shakeup in the talent pool in our industry. That's something that we look at opportunistically. I've sort of challenged our human resources team to be the Warren Buffett of talent, to invest counter-cyclically. And we think in cycles in terms of decades, not quarters. So that's an advantage for us. But I think that there's always going to be work. We have 4 diversified business units, and so we're able to shift talent and surge it towards the markets that are growing right now, such as Google Fiber to the Home, combined cycle gas power plants, modularized nuclear LNG plants. So I think there's opportunity.
Great. Well, we need companies like Bechtel to keep innovating and thinking long-term, so appreciate your commitment to that and to being here today. And join me in thanking Brendan Bechtel.